What's going on, everybody? I'm back for a double installment today. Thank you so much for joining again. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at DreamRare. That's at DreamRare. You can follow me on Twitter at Legendary Energy. That's at Legendary Energy, spelled just like that. You can check out my website, legendary.vision, for more cool stuff or not cool stuff, depending on your perspective. It's all on you. And I'm going to wait about 5-10 more seconds for people to get in. And this is a double installment today. I just have to talk about this. George Bush recently did a big speech or talk or whatever you want to call it. And the mainstream media is swooning over it. You know, CNN is loving it. Esquire, you know, all of the mainstream media, they're like, do I agree with George W. Bush? You know, first of all, when George W. Bush was president, most of the mainstream media pushed a lot of narrative that was untrue that led us to going to the Iraq War, where we, if anybody noticed, you know, during 2001, 2004, the whole narrative there changed with George Bush. They're like, hey, we gotta get Osama bin Laden, and then all of a sudden we're like in other countries, and they're like, oh, you know, and then Obama gets in. Obama's very cool, very funny guy, very great guy, and then all of a sudden we're in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Syria. You know, we're in 7 different countries, and we're dropping bombs in other countries. It's like, hey, what happened to Osama bin Laden? So that's who George Bush is, and nobody seemed to care, but the real reason behind this speech, and the reason the mainstream media loves it, I'm going to tell it to you very directly, very bluntly. There's going to be a lot of people on both sides that lie. There's going to be a lot of bias. I'm going to tell it just like it is. When it comes to nationalism, I'm not in no way, shape, or form a nationalist. I think the average American who says, oh, I'm American and I only need to, you know, think one way, whatever, I think that's very ignorant. I think you should learn from all cultures. To be honest, I think all cultures, ethnicities, countries have something to teach somebody, even religions. Even if you don't agree with it, there's a lesson to be learned with every single person you meet, everything. So I'm in no way, shape, or form a nationalist. But when George Bush attacks nationalism, he's not doing it for the reason you think. He doesn't care about racism. That's going to be the talking point. It's racism. George Bush cares about Russia and racism. George Bush does not care about racism. Nobody said a word, only Kanye West, when thousands of people died in Hurricane Katrina. Meanwhile, in Puerto Rico, everybody wants to chop the president's head off because he threw a paper towel. I'm not saying it's the best move, I'm just being honest. Anyway, the reason that George Bush hates nationalism, the reason that John McCain hates nationalism, your classic Republicans who are basically, you know, all playing along with the government, is because never before President Trump, whether you love him or hate him, you could hate him, that has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. The truth doesn't change just because of your opinions. That's what I try to get to people. Just because you hate someone doesn't mean there's not things going on. And the reality of it is George Bush hates nationalism because George Bush is a globalist, for lack of a better term. John McCain, George Bush, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, they're all similar type puppets. The reason they got there is because they did favors for the pharmacy industry, for Monsanto, for big lobbyists. And in some cases, it's been exposed this year in documents that are 100% proven that they were also taking money from foreign countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, many more. So the past politicians were completely sold out to foreign countries and corporations. The things that they accused Donald Trump of doing, this is what the American government has become. Now, Donald Trump comes through. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he speaks correctly to people. I'm not saying that he's doing everything he can. He definitely has some favors, and he has to play his cards right because he's one person in a global sea of power. But he's less connected to corporations, politicians, and foreign countries than any president ever. So the rat politicians are freaking out, and they're basically just lying to people. And nothing is more clear than the fact that George Bush and John McCain now are national heroes. The Democrats love them. The mainstream media loves them. They're like, do I agree with George Bush? Of course you agree, because it was never left and right. It was never Democrat and Republican. It was never a battle. It was always two people who were basically going to do the exact same thing. They're both working for the pharmacy industries. They're both working for the big lobbyists. They're both working for the military-industrial complex. And if they're not, then they'll rig the election and find somebody who is. That's the way that American politics, in essence, was working. Give or take, a few perspectives or opinion differs. So the reason everyone thinks George Bush hates nationalism is because he's making a stand against racism, but it's totally wrong. And you're talking to somebody who is pro-LGBT, who is pro-every culture, ethnicity. I love all people deeper than anyone will ever understand, except for, maybe people who are disrespectful and rude from any culture that I don't want to deal with. But they're using the social justice movement, people like George Bush, news sites like CNN and Newsweek, they're using social justice, they're using LGBT equality, they're using race, they're using religion to trick people, not to stop racism. They're making it worse, and they're dividing people. And I can prove this. I can 100% prove this because they themselves are proving it every day. It's just most people are too one-sided to pay attention and read between the lines. Also in George Bush's speech, he said that Russia is working very hard to divide the American people. He said, Russia's working to divide the American people. They've been pushing this Russian narrative forever, and they're finally starting to tell the truth about it, but they're still trying to spin it. And here's what we found out about Russia. I'm going to repeat exactly what the mainstream media has been repeating for the past 3 or 4 weeks. Russia had a massive Facebook page where they were running tens of thousands of dollars in ads. This is mainstream news. This is not a conspiracy. Their big Facebook page was called Blacktivist, a black activist, and they were running social justice ads, Black Lives Matter ads, pro-Muslim women ads, basically just your run-of-the-mill social justice advertisements. And they were even bigger at one point than the actual Black Lives Matter page. CNN and everybody did a big story this week. They said Russia was using Pokemon Go to divide people. And what they were doing in Pokemon Go was changing, and first of all, this has barely any influence on anything, so that's a complete lie, but they were changing the Pokemon's names in Pokemon Go to be big activists or big people involved in social justice, criminal justice debates, either that were killed by police or that have, played a role somehow. So they were changing their Pokemon's name to it. Then, this is what two-faced rats that regular journalists are. They then start running the story that Russia's dividing us by running social justice ads. That's exactly what Washington Post does 24/7. That's exactly what Newsweek does 24/7. That's exactly what Huffington Post does 24/7. That's exactly what CNN does 24/7. That's exactly what MSNBC does 24/7. So they're admitting this is what rats they are. This is what disgusting, dishonest rats they are. And I'm not telling you to like the president. You can hate the president, but don't believe two-faced rats. If you want to stop Trump, stop believing these rats. Because these rats all year have pushed fake stories that have been debunked. They push lies. They push division. They push hate. And then they're now blaming Russia for doing the exact same thing that they do every single day. They're admitting that these type of social justice ads are divisive, because anytime you start dividing people by race, now you have, oh, I'm white, I'm black, I'm this, I'm that. Everyone just fights. Race is a trap. You talk about religion, oh, Islam, Christians are doing that. And then you have people fighting over religions. It's a trap. Political party, oh, I'm a liberal, oh, I'm a conservative, oh, I'm a progressive, I'm a libertarian. It's a trap. Besides the ideology, I respect that, and I respect people's affiliates, but these are all traps, and this is what they do all the time. And George Bush and the Washington Post and New York Times have the audacity. This is how phony they are. You have to be, I'm sorry, for lack of a better term, you have to be a moron at this point if you're not caught up to how many times they've lied. There's 5 different Russia stories that completely got debunked. They said Russia hacked the election. It never happened. You know who did hack the election? Homeland Security, look it up. They got blocked trying to hack into the votes. Not Russia, Homeland Security. Very sketchy. They said that Russia hacked a power grid in Vermont. It was a big story. Russia hacked the power grid. Fake story. You don't see it anymore because it was a complete lie based on anonymous sources, just like all of their stories are. They talked about, oh my goodness, Russia's infiltrating all of our journalists. And they investigated Breitbart and Alex Jones. Regardless of what you think of Breitbart and Alex Jones, they're not Russian. They're American. Even if you hate them with all your heart, they're not working for Russian. They're Americans with their own beliefs. That was a complete lie. That story got debunked by people like me and Glenn Greenwald, and you don't see it anymore because they keep hopping on to fake story and fake story and fake story, playing people based on emotions, race, and religion just for ratings. You had people who worked at CNN say it was a nothing burger. You have many reports of James O'Keefe with Project Veritas going in and people who work for CNN admitting we're lying. Like literally one of their biggest video directors, he's like, you know what? Trump's right. Like it is a witch hunt. We're basically making this stuff up and going from thing to thing to thing. And this is how pathetic and disgusting they are. And now they're bringing out all the weapons. George Bush, Ellen, all of their weapons. They're telling you now, after lying about Russia all year, lie. Now they're talking about Pokemon Go. I mean, you have to be a moron if you're following this story, still trying to debunk it. But even if you are following this story, they're saying that Russia is dividing the United States by running social justice ads. These are the exact type of things that they talk about 24/7. So they're admitting that they're dividing America. They have admitted to you over the last week openly, we divide America. Us and Russia divide America. Us and Russia do the same thing. New York Times, Washington, they're admitting that. In other words, of course they spin it, but they do the exact same thing that the Russian ads were doing. And there's been barely any press on that. And George Bush, of course, steps up saying, we're at war with Russia because they're trying to divide us by doing exactly what I'm doing. He says, nationalism's on the rise and I'm so mad. It's because we caught on to the fact that the world is one big system. It's all a big setup. We can see it. Facebook, all of the news sections, they lead us a certain way. You control us by controlling the news. Okay, bang, news story. That affects 1 billion people on Twitter. News story. On YouTube, now they're taking money away from independent users. Now they're filtering the algorithm to put certain things first. They're doubling down on the failed strategy, which made people upset the whole election. And now George Bush is the new hero, the guy who started all of these wars, the guy who led us to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, who then led us to the refugee crisis that everyone gets blamed for now. That's who started it. The people that are being romanticized by the mainstream media. And you never heard about it before this year because they don't actually care. The only reason they care is because Trump is not one of them. If Trump was racist, sexist, xenophobic, hateful, trying to destroy America, trying to sell America out to other corporations, but he was working for the same people that puppet them, they would love Donald Trump. Donald Trump would get amazing press. He would be a hero. He would be on Ellen. He would be on Jimmy Kimmel. But Donald Trump is so rich and so arrogant, he is as arrogant as people think, but so arrogant that he is going against the entire system. He's not taking money from pharmacy corporations. He's not taking their advice. He's not going along with the war plan that they have set out, admittedly by General Wesley Clark, who worked for George Bush. You could YouTube that video. They've planned all of these wars. They have a plan. And no matter what president gets in, that plan is usually followed. That's why it's so annoying to me that so many people are so caught up on Donald Trump because he's a shiny object. Whether you love him, you might as well just love him because then at least you're happy all the time. Or if you hate him, he's still a trap because it's not about one person. It's never been about one person. We've known that. We've known that the news was lying to us. Now all of a sudden, people who knew the news was lying to us for 10 years, all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, the news is telling the truth now because I don't like Donald Trump. How does that make sense? Just because I hate someone or hate something doesn't mean I cloud my vision to everything else in the world. You have to be honest about things, or else you're going to lead to your demise. You're going to lead to the demise of the country, and you're going to lead to 8 years of this person that you can't stand. So please learn, please listen, or else you're going to get 8 years of them. Because while everyone's retaining all this new information, while everybody's learning what Barack Obama really did, while everyone else is learning what George Bush really did and what Hillary Clinton really did, you're stuck in a corner watching fake news and fake articles and thinking that Pokemon Go infiltrated American infrastructure. And it's not true. Even if it is true that they used it to somehow manipulate a few people, they did it using the same exact tactics that George Soros uses. He's a billionaire who just took $18 billion out to his Open Society Foundation. He funds the Women's March. He funds social rights. He funds all these activist groups. Not because he wants to help people. This is the greatest time to ever be alive as a woman, as any person of any race, religion, and gender. We have delivery food. We have private cars. You can start a business on the internet. You can make it in the music and film industry, and you don't have to be a certain color, a certain gender, a certain race. It's the greatest time ever now to be alive. You can do anything that you want to do, travel the world. It's the best time ever to be alive. They're pushing so much money into these activist groups because they know how hateful they are. They know how negative they are, and they know that if they get pushed hard enough, they'll lead to Trump falling down for Mike Pence. And Mike Pence is not a hero to the American people. He's more conservative. He's possibly more religious. So if you hate Donald Trump, you're going to hate Mike Pence even more. And if you get rid of Mike Pence, you're going to hate the next guy even more. It's not a solution. A solution is learning and getting a better candidate in 2020 to actually have a real competition. But George Bush is getting up there and just repeating the same lies, the same lies, the same lies, the same lies. Same lies as the news. They still haven't learned. They think that it's just going to work if they say it enough and enough. And to a small extent, it does work because people have such strong hate for Donald Trump that they'll believe anything against him. I'm not a big fan of certain people, but I don't believe fake stories. Even sometimes in Hillary Clinton's book, it's filled with a bunch of lies. She made a good point one time, and I was like, hey, you know what? That's a good point, because I can't lie to myself. If I like some person and I see them debate, I'm not going to lie about it just to feed my ego and feed my opinions. I'm going to tell the truth about what happened. If Hillary Clinton tells the truth, she told the truth. If Bernie Sanders tells the truth, he told the truth. I don't go based on people. I go based on situations, but they're using social justice and the hate for Trump to mask people to what people have really done over the past 70 years. You've had reports of intelligence communities starting wars, possibly funding terrorists, selling drugs throughout Los Angeles and framing a bunch of innocent people who are working class people in Los Angeles just spreading drugs everywhere. These are reports that have been admitted for 30, 40 years. But somehow people think that Donald Trump did everything bad in the world and that the only thing happening is Trump versus the people. It's not Trump versus the people. I've said this before. It's Trump and half of America versus George Bush, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, George Soros, John McCain, all of the mainstream media, and half the country. That's what the fight is. It's half the country and Donald Trump trying to return somewhat normalcy versus all of the people from the past who have done the most despicable crimes. Everything that they've accused Donald Trump of doing. And I know Donald Trump's not perfect. He's not the ideal person. To some people, they've done 20,000 times more than he has. That's why they're trying to cover it up. And they're openly admitting right now that they're doing the exact same thing that Russia did to divide the country, yet they somehow still convince people that it's not their fault. It's incredible because all this information is 1,000,000% out there. All of the people on the Trump side, while not all of the people, but a large portion of them, while the mainstream media paints them all as toothless hillbillies, they're actually a lot deeper. They're learning a lot. They don't like Paul Ryan. They don't like John McCain. They don't like Mitch McConnell. They're not trying to just listen to Trump, whatever he does. They're actually so intelligent in a lot of ways. When Trump told them to vote for Luther Strange, who is the establishment candidate, they went against Trump. A lot of Trump supporters, if you tune out of the fake news, who is literally just starting TMZ gossip to distract us, and this way Trump gets away with everything because they're so busy lying that everyone's running in circles and Trump does whatever he wants. They're helping Trump. I explained that in another video. If you really don't like Trump, you should listen to me, because at this rate, he's going to get away with everything. His own supporters, they go against him and call him out when he's on his BS. They're actually deeper. They know about globalists. They know about how people like George Bush are twisting nationalism and social justice. I'm very pro-social justice. I'm very pro-women. I'm very pro-LGBT. I love these movements, and I do agree that there are some cases where things still need to be solved and healed. I mean, just look at Hollywood. All of these women and many men were being taken advantage of by people in power, and oftentimes raped or sexually assaulted. So clearly, we haven't gone far enough with social justice. Look no further than the film and entertainment industry. I mean, millions of people knew about it, kept silent, got tens of millions of dollars, and let underage people be, molested. Molly Ringwald said when she was 14 that a film director stuck his tongue down her throat, and the film director was married. This is the industry of people pointing the fingers. You guys should take a year off, fix your own industry, because that's disgusting, and keep going deeper down the rabbit hole and see who else is there. I'm not going to be surprised, but you might be. So this is the type of stuff that we're dealing with. And two people now that want to be big George Bush fans because he said some stuff that's anti-Trump, really pay attention to what's going on. Really pay attention to the silver lining, because while the news, they're going to say racism, sexism, xenophobia, they're going to talk about all these social justice things, not to help social justice like I want to do and like you want to do, because they know it's a divisive tactic. Right when you bring up white guy kills black guy kills white guy, Latino guy kills white guy, that story right there is divisive, because you're going to have certain people feel a certain way, certain people feel a certain way. They know how to use social justice in the headlines to destroy people. They want to destroy this country. United we stand, divided we fall. We don't always have to agree, but we have to stop being so stubborn and foolish. If you talk to people that are extremes, it's like they have completely different realities and they're refusing to budge. We need to have conversations and get to the truth. And the truth of it is, George W. Bush is not the greatest person to ever exist in humanity just because he did this 2-minute speech. He's not telling the full story, and there's a reason that he gets promotion on Ellen and Trump can't get any promotion. It's because the same mainstream media that brought us to Iraq, the same mainstream media that hid and covered up all of the crimes and corruption of the 8 years of Obama administration, where he's getting involved in 7, 8 different countries and nobody knows or cares about it. This is the same news that is now puffing up George W. Bush to make him look like a hero. Meanwhile, all the stuff he's talking about, I could debunk in a minute. I just debunked it all. The Russia story is the biggest single piece of propaganda in modern United States history. When it's all said and done, it's the biggest, most persistent lie I've ever seen. The guy, Mueller, who was heading the investigation against Trump, he knew about the Hillary Obama $100 million Russia uranium deal. It is now fact that Hillary, as Secretary of State, approved a deal that sold United States uranium used to make nuclear bombs directly to Russia, and her and Bill Clinton doing speeches and backdoor deals to their foundation got over $100 million selling United States uranium to Russia. Mueller, ex-head of the FBI, knew about this, and now he somehow is the leader of the investigation into Russian meddling with Trump, and the only evidence after a whole year of fake stories and fake lies, the only evidence they have is that on Facebook and on Pokemon Go, Russians were doing exactly what they themselves do. You can't make this stuff up. It's so ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's so incredibly mind-boggling. It sounds like a fake movie. Imagine a movie script. Like Morgan Freeman said, imagine a movie script. It's not a movie script. This is really happening. And all you have to do to get fooled by it is hate Trump so much that you don't pay attention to anything. I don't care who you like. I don't care if you like Bernie Sanders. I don't care if you like Jill Stein. I don't care if you like Gary Johnson. I don't care if you don't care at all. You might as well not care, because at this point it's a circus. But whatever it is, don't just listen to people. Don't just blindly listen to people and say, whatever they say, it must be 100% true. Even me. I've had people before where I did a live stream and they said, hey, Anomaly, just to let you know, I think you were wrong about this little thing. And they mentioned something, and I was like, hey, you know what? You're right. Make sure you put it in the comments, and next time I talk about it, I'll make the correction. Don't even believe everything I say. I'm not 100%, I'm going to just believe everything. You should question, respectfully, but when it comes to politicians and when it comes to news sources, you can't just assume that they're telling you the truth, because in a lot of cases, the biggest news outlets in the U.S. this year have been debunked 10 to 20 times, pushing 100% fake stories that don't even have a shred of truth. The whole Russia thing has been lie after lie after lie, and the only thing they have to show for it is that Russia ran social justice ads basically akin to Huffington Post. It's absolutely bananas. But I just wanted to say that about George Bush's speech. So nationalism, over nationalism, bad. Why is George Bush talking about it? Does he want to stop over nationalism? No. He wants his global friends to regain control so they can move forward with their agenda, not to help people. And with the Russia stuff I just explained, it's bananas. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I'm going to put my link below. If you would like to donate, it helps a lot. YouTube's trying to take the money away. They're filtering algorithms. Facebook's been amazing to me. I can't complain. They're very, very kind to me. God bless you, Mark Zuckerberg. I know you're a real one. I know they're trying to shut you down too, but stay with me, Mark Zuckerberg. We'll have a talk in Hawaii sometime. God bless you. And it really helps the donations, because they're trying to censor and shut everything down. But you know, it's all love, and I'm going to look for other ways to monetize in the future, but I'm 100% fueled by the people. That's just what it is. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing week. I'll be back soon.